like always, we don't really have any real preparation for our recording this time, but I have a couple of topics on my mind. They're not particularly timely or anything, they're just things that I was wondering about recently. And as you said, you also have some topics on your mind, so maybe we can just alternate between them. So let's see how much ground we can cover today.
Yeah, let's see where it goes. Meandering is the best way to go forward.
Oh my god, we need like some amount of channeling. We need some canals built. Before we get too deep in our water body analogies,
Nice.
what I was thinking of was a different kind of body. I was watching some videos on YouTube about tattoos.
Yeah.
And we haven't really discussed them as a topic before. Like, I don't think we've ever gotten too much into the details of tattoos before.
That's true.
And I think you sort of have a vague idea of my standing on the topic, but I have no idea where you stand on it. So I guess my first question would be, would you ever get a tattoo?
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised to discover this like a few months ago when I realized I saw a design that I really liked, and I saw the tattoo rather, and I thought that looks really nice, and if I get a chance, I think I want to have a tattoo of that particular design. So yeah, my opinion has slightly changed. I was never strongly against it before. I probably just didn't have enough information about it. I thought that at first, like if I got a tattoo, I wouldn't be able to donate blood and that kind of stuff. So after that, like I started reading a little bit up about it, and I realized, okay, that's not the case. It's not as this is a poor pun, but it's not as black and white as I thought it was. And it's actually quite interesting, and my mind is now sort of set on one particular design that I have found. I mean, I don't know when I'll get a chance to do it, and it's not something that it's super high on my bucket list, so to speak, but it's there now, which is nice.
That's cool. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I think you have a design that you showed me a long time ago, a sketch that you made. That's the one you want to get, right?
Yeah. I have like a lot of ideas. So I have like on my notes app, I have like a list of topics that I come up with, like ideas or maybe quotes or just concepts that I would like a professional artist to sort of wonder, or the one idea that I sort of like is of merging two or more things that would sort of go well together. Like there was this one digital art design thing that I had done a while back of the Starry Night, the painting by Van Gogh, and with Wall-E and Eve from the film Wall-E in the foreground, and that was like a concept that just sort of felt to me that it would go very well together. So I was pleasantly surprised by the sort of the design that I could make in my free time, and while that is way too complicated for something for me to get tattooed, that is like one of the ideas that I would like someone to sort of make into a proper design. But the design that you actually mentioned that I'd shown you before is also like a version of like an amalgamation of two or more ideas. One is
yeah, it is.
Yeah. And I'll try to put a picture in the description, in the show notes. And it's basically an outline drawing of The Little Prince. It's actually one of the many illustrations from the book La Petite Prince. For those who don't know, it's like it's a French children's book, and it's extremely simple, but it has really some very deep ideas, and it's just a very nice cute little drawing. And there's one image in particular which has this little prince who's sort of like an alien who goes from planet to planet, just hopping around and seeing what's up with the different people. And he sort of embodies like a childlike curiosity, and he goes from one planet to the other, being pulled by a flock of birds, which was like a really, really beautiful illustration in the book. And I sort of really like that idea, and I'm extremely fascinated by space and astronauts especially. I really love I don't know what it is, but the astronaut suit, just sort of the pressure suit that they wear, just is really, really, really cool to me. So there's this really cool picture of Felix Baumgartner from when he did the jump from the edge of space. It was like this huge stunt that he did, and there's this really cool picture of him free falling, and so I sort of sketched up a version of both of those, that astronaut free falling and the birds flying him away sort of together. And I find that if I was to get a tattoo, that would be like one of the first things that I would get. But there's like a huge list of quotes and stuff to tie in together our previous podcast. There's some Hamilton quotes as well.
Of course. I mean, Hamilton quotes are brilliant, and there's one for every occasion. So I am absolutely for that idea. But I have a question about the astronaut image that you have in your mind, because those suits are slightly old.
Yeah.
And now we're sort of moving towards, I mean, at least with the recent Dragon launches, the SpaceX suits are much sleeker, and in my opinion, they look much better since they're not so bulky as the previous ones. So the question is, which astronaut suit would you prefer? Would you prefer the one with the giant helmet and the classic look that everyone is used to, you know, from encyclopedias and like movies and everything, or the sleeker ones that are starting to become, hopefully they will become more commonplace?
Right. So actually the one in my design was not really like the kind of suit that they wear on EVAs. So it's not that bulky, but it was sort of meant for a skydiving thing from the edge of space. So it's quite sleek and it's quite cool looking. I would of course get rid of the Red Bull livery on the suit itself. But that's part of it. But also I like the point that you bring up is quite interesting, but I'm not entirely sure that I would go with the newer suits, because they're still concepts at this point, and they're basically just drawings, and I would much rather prefer even the older, bulkier pressure suits that they had, because they have some sort of historical authenticity. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, they do have a lot of meaning attached to them now, and they're easily identifiable. I know what you're saying. Like the new suits are not as easily identifiable because, for obvious reasons, they're new. Yeah. So we haven't had enough time basically to get accustomed, for our eyes to get used to seeing those. So yeah, but interesting. If these suits do become popular, I'm wondering if your designs will start slightly changing in a couple of years. That remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But I had a question going back to your idea about the Starry Night with WALL-E. I can see that image in my head, and it's a very beautiful picture, but at the same time, it is very much a picture that needs color, right?
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about it in terms of a tattoo, are you thinking about it in terms of a color tattoo, or are you thinking about it still as like lines and shading?
For that design in particular, I'm not really entirely sure how I would get it done. And since I don't have a particularly concrete idea, I would sort of let the tattoo artist take the concept and go ahead with it, and maybe like they would come up with something that was cool. I don't mind the idea of just outlines or just black and white, because I've seen some really, really cool tattoos that are amazing amazing. But my only issue is that with the Van Gogh style, the Impressionist style, it does look a little busy, and I would much rather prefer a sort of sleeker look. I don't know how that would be achieved, but
Yeah.
Can you describe to me in a little bit more detail what your design was?
Okay. What I want to get is a very, very simple design. It almost looks like, at least for me, it reminds me of a design that used to be on strikers in carom. You know, the ivory or the plastic strikers that we used to have. Kind of like that. I'll send you an image and I'll explain a little bit what it is about.
Ooh, okay. Just from the link, I sense the theme.
Yes, the tattoo is basically a flower inside a circle. It reminds me really strongly of the strikers, like I said, from carom. But this design it represents the Order of the White Lotus, which is like a thing from Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is, in my opinion, the best animated TV show ever. One of the best TV shows, period. So it represents something from that. And somehow I've just really liked the design for its simplicity and the sort of meaning that it has. It's not a super prominent thing even within the story of the show, but it sort of represents a bunch of stuff that I like, and I like that concept. I like that design itself. It's not very busy, which is one of the things that I really don't like in terms of tattoos. I feel like they have to be simple and yet open-ended enough that you might interpret whatever you want. So I feel like this satisfies a bunch of those criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it just like a good design that I would like to have.
You know what's interesting about tattoos? What I find sort of the most sort of contradictory but still quite cool is the fact that as a lot of people will describe it, it's sort of a form of self-expression, but it's at least for me, I don't know, this might differ for other people, but it's not just about projecting your personality onto others or expressing yourself to others. It's more sort of a thing that you do for yourself. I don't know. It's a little self-indulgent, but it's interesting in the fact that it's something that it sort of only has to really mean something to you, and what other people think of it or don't think of it is absolutely fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't really think that if I ever got a tattoo, it would be to represent anything to anyone else. It would just be for myself. It would be a reminder. At the same time, it would just be art that I like. I don't think that there's anything more that I sort of see in terms of the tattoo. It would be nice to see like the stuff that it represents. Of course, there's some meaning behind it for me, and occasionally it would be a nice reminder to look at it and at least like think back to what I felt when I got it or when I saw the design and what it kind of means. But other than that, I feel like, I mean, it's only skin deep, right? It doesn't go deeper than that. So
yeah, just a couple of layers of the skin. But yeah, there's another really cool sort of reminded me because of your idea is again a very simple outline kind of a design, which is Talaria, which is the winged slippers, the winged sandals that Hermes wears. Yeah, I've always found them to be quite cool, and for what they represent, him being the god of travelers and sort of being able to fly and all of that stuff, and it's quite cool. I really like that. Also, like in that black just outline design.
Yeah, that's a nice design, but I feel like maybe it might be, you might want to modify it slightly. Instead of having winged sandals or slippers, you might want to turn them into like running shoes or something slightly more along the lines of Percy Jackson, which I'm rereading right now, and that's why it's present on the front of my on the tip of my tongue. But I think that for the current sort of scenario, like maybe like modify it from the old school design to something that's, you know, a mix of now and then. Dare I say a bit of both.
As much as I liked the concept, I would still sort of like the old timiness of it, because then I think it would sort of get confusing a little bit, at least for me, because again, the way I think of it is very sort of old school and very simple. But there's a lot of things, like if it were up to me, and I don't know if it should be entirely up to me, but I would just cover myself up in tattoos. I don't know why, but because it's not so much that I want to be like completely like have a whole tat sleeve or something, but it's just I feel like I have some really cool ideas, so maybe some of them will transfer into tattoos, some of them might just transfer into just like wallpaper or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because your Starry Night design makes me like, that image makes me think that it would be much nicer on that wall of posters behind you rather than on skin. I think it might be better hanging from a wall.
Yeah, I actually have a very cool place where I have actually thought about this. So I've mentioned to you before, but I was thinking of getting like a van, and like I'm sure people can find more on Instagram of van life, of #van life,
yes,
where people basically outfit like a sprinter van, like a transit van, into a mobile home. So I quite like the idea, and so it started off as a pun, but I sort of do quite like the idea itself, which is to get a van, modify it, and paint that exact design, the Starry Night painting, on the outside of the van, and you could call the van a Van Gogh.
Yes, of course.
And if you paint the same thing on a wall, you could call it Wall-E.
Very nice. Well done. I mean, but like I'm really interested in, like, again, tattoos are also like an artistic expression, which I haven't really thought about it too much, and I wonder maybe if you have. But are there like some things, some designs, or some type of art that would be much better as a tattoo compared to, say, a poster or painted on canvas or something like that? Have you really thought about this at all?
Yeah, there's a lot of designs that are quite cool, but I guess you can sort of adapt things from one medium to another.
I wonder though, there might be some stuff like you see a painting or you see a watercolor, and you can just tell by the way that it's made that it's much nicer in this particular form. Or even with something like color pencils or like shading and sketching with like just monochrome, there are certain things that are much nicer in that particular form than any other. And you could always interpret it and recreate it in many different styles. But there is one style that seems really beautiful. So I don't know, I'm gonna keep an eye out if I find something like this. But I hope there is something.
I've seen a lot of tattoo designs that have really stuck with me, but I've never actually thought about it in this sense, in terms of the medium.
Yeah, I mean, like, because if you think about it, if you're doing it on your body, depending on the part of the body, it will move, right? The skin will stretch and come together, and perhaps over time you will have wrinkles, and so the tattoo will also change. So I mean, if it's something just like your arm, right, you move your arm and the position of the tattoo with your body, it changes. And I wonder if there's like different stuff that you can have, like you can create different kinds of art that moves as a human move. I don't know.
Wasn't there an episode of Popeye or something where maybe Popeye himself or Brutus had a tattoo on his biceps, and when he flexed them, it was like a skeleton that sort of went, I don't know, like a big X or something.
Yeah.
And it moved, I think. It was in some cartoon from childhood.
I just realized, like, although I wasn't thinking about it now until you said Popeye, I remember the image of the tattoo, but I also realized like they have explored this a lot in Moana.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy. There goes an original thought.
What is original? Are there any other ideas that you've had for tattoos? Or any ideas, themes, concepts?
I have found a couple, but most of them have been some things like the art or the design has been something that I wouldn't mind as a tattoo or as just like a print of a poster or a wallpaper or something like that. And since a lot of things that I come across are generally full of color, they have not really been good tattoo ideas. And to be honest, like this was something that I was thinking about maybe 2 months ago, around then. But after that, I haven't really thought about it since. So no, I haven't consciously come across any designs. Have you?
Now that we've gone down the wallpaper route,
Yeah.
I actually very recently, like day before yesterday, I got some new wallpapers for my computer, and they're I'll put a link for the website. And it's this artist who's done these minimalist wallpapers of all the Pokemons.
Oh, nice.
And he's done them in sort of series, so they're essentially done in the form of like the way the Pokemons evolve. So they're really cool, and I don't think I would get any of the actual Pokemons themselves because again they're quite intricate, but I quite like the idea of like a Pokeball tattoo. I think that would be quite nice, quite small and simple, but a standard regular red Pokeball would be quite nice.
Yeah, it doesn't appeal to me too much. The simplicity is nice for sure, but I feel like there's not much more to be derived from the image of a Pokeball, in my opinion. So since it doesn't have like those added layers of meaning, it really becomes very one-dimensional, and I don't think it's that attractive to have as a tattoo.
I feel like there can be certainly in my head when the idea came to me, I was thinking about what kind of meanings it would have. But what do you think about it as just a purely aesthetic art form, as something that doesn't really have to mean anything, just because it looks good?
Yeah, I would say purely aesthetically, it looks nice. It's a nice color combination. It's simple, yet you know exactly what it stands for. To be honest, it does have a really nice connection to our childhoods. So I think there's more than enough ground for more meaning to be derived from it. And overall, yeah, it's not a bad picture just to have like a minimalist.
Not just this one in particular, though. What do you think about tattoos as just because they look good?
I have slightly mixed thoughts on those. Generally, I prefer clean, like I said, minimalist sort of designs. And although I have seen some really pretty intricate tattoos which take up like a lot of space and they're like really complex, I am not really a big fan of those in general. And I am not really a big fan of like having like a lot of tattoos. There are some people who have just like a tattoo or two and something that's really meaningful and really important to them tattooed on their hand or somewhere. But I feel like in terms of art, it's generally the complicated one that tattoo becomes more artistically interesting. And even though it is nice and like there is a lot of thought and design that went into making it, I find it a little bit much. So I'm not a big fan.
I've sent you the link for the Pokemon wallpapers, and like somebody's gone to great lengths to do this, and it's incredible.
I feel like from your description, I know I've seen something like it, but I'm gonna open it up and
they're very simple, but I don't know. It's sort of they're not very busy, but they're quite nice on the wallpaper on the desktop. But what's the best part is that they, rather than having them centered like a lot of wallpapers are, they've actually kept the Pokemons on the right side of it. So on the left side where you would have all the icons for your desktop programs and stuff like that, folders and stuff, that place is quite clean. And I'm actually quite liking these, because before this I used to have a lot of screenshots from films. So as you know, I take a lot of screenshots from films as like a database for my cinematography ventures. But but they did sometimes get quite busy, especially if they were not curated properly. But these ones are quite nice. They're basically monotone, but it's quite nice. It's cool.
They're really cute. I mean, they still have the sort of original animation style, the original cartoon feeling to it. They're quite pretty, and yeah, like they're minimalist, so I enjoy them. I like Lapras. I opened that one up because I just like Lapras as a Pokemon.
Oh yeah, he was one of my favorites.
Yeah, Lapras was pretty cool. I am interested in the Moltres though.
My favorite Pokemons were, I think, it was Lapras and Ponyta and Arcanine.
Arcanine's a good one.
Yeah.
Arcanine was pretty amazing. I was a little bit, I guess, traditional in my Pokemon choices. I really liked Pikachu because he was just the cutest Pokemon.
Yeah.
And I also like Bulbasaur. I don't know why. I have just a really, really deep interest. Like of the first three starters, I found Bulbasaur to be like the friendliest, and then just in general the most interesting one. Charmander and Squirtle were all right. And Squirtle was pretty cool with his sunglasses and everything.
Yeah, his gang, his squad.
Yeah.
Actually, I really like Charmander's story arc in the original cartoons. It was incredibly well done for a children's show.
Where he went from a slightly happy child to a angsty teenager to just an outright rage monster.
Yeah, I just really like dragons a lot. So I really like Charizard because he was like this really amazing fire spitting dragon.
Very true, very true.
Which sort of reminds me, a toothless tattoo would be quite nice. He's quite cute.
He is cute. No arguments there. But I really like the Toothless in the movie, like the animated Toothless. But if I wanted to get like a dragon tattoo, that would not be my first dragon to go for. I would, I think, want a slightly old school design of a dragon rather than but okay, in this case, by old school I mean still like a combination possibly of Eastern and Western dragons, somewhere halfway, because the Western dragons were kind of badass.
Yeah.
But they're also destructive. The Eastern dragons have this sort of positive nature to them.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Which is why I feel like Toothless is like a good combination of a friendly winged dragon. I think they're called wyverns. Yeah. Or I don't know what the pronunciation is because I've just read it in a lot of places. But wyvern is like a winged dragon, if I'm not wrong.
I think wyverns had just 2 legs. I know I'm being super technical here, and then there were 4-legged dragons as well. It's safe to say that like dragons were heavily interesting way back in, I think, 7th standard or something like that.
It's far more recent for me, my friend. It was like, I remember because we were doing, I was doing a project a while back, I think like 3 years ago. And for that, we were doing like a lot of mythology stuff, and I was heavily into dragons, and I did like a whole research thing on that. But, you know, speaking about like Toothless and things, and also like Lapras and all of these sort of creatures, what I think these mythical creatures sort of get at is this sort of fondness, which I also realized from my choice of Pokemons with Lapras, Ponyta and Arcanine, is that they are all very like domestic in their sort of nature. They're very reminiscent of dogs and horses. So I really love the sort of at least in the films, I've never had a horse, I've had a dog, but the sort of the sort of companionship and sort of friendship that you get with these animals is sort of very cool, which is why I think a lot of like mythical stuff like Toothless or a lot of sort of friendly creatures in a lot of films are sort of modeled on these two animals in particular. And yeah, they're very cool.
Yeah, I like most of these designs, although I would say they're not probably the best Pokemon wallpapers that I've come across.
Yeah, I really like the consistency throughout the Pokemon. So there's like 700 or so of them, and all of them are very consistent in style and everything. So it just sort of like the color palette and everything sort of seemed to match the original cartoons. So Yeah, it was just consistency for me more than anything.
I'm looking at the Pikachu wallpaper, and it reminds me of a really cute one I saw a couple of years ago, at least, which was basically Pokemon in a Pac-Man world. So the ghost was Haunter and Pac-Man was Pikachu, and it was eating Pokeballs, and Haunter was chasing him, and they were in the same size, like how Pac-Man and the ghosts look.
Mm-hmm.
They looked exactly like that, and that was a very fun wallpaper that I remember seeing.
So what did you want to talk about?
So I'm gonna send you a video first, because
Okay.
this video sort of pushed me down a sort of thought rabbit hole, and I want to know what you think. So
Are we a React channel now?
we are most definitely not. That is not happening. So I've sent you the video.
Mm-hmm.
It's called We Are Wanderers, and it is a couple of lines by Carl Sagan.
Okay. I'm just gonna play the video.
We were wanderers from the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw this, and it kind of called me back to our talks about survival instinct
Mm-hmm.
and the itchy feet that we get, especially when we are forced to stay in one place for an inordinate amount of time.
In the hypothetical scenario that was the case,
Yeah, in case all transport is shut down.
or you're forced to stay at home.
I don't know. I don't see how that might be possible, but in the remote scenario that it happens, I really like the way he put forth the idea as something that is not just something that we feel right now because of nice photos on Facebook and Instagram, but it's something that's almost genetic, that humans have sort of evolved within themselves, and this sort of weird urge to travel and to just go, doesn't matter where, is almost a fundamental characteristic about us. And it makes sense. If I kind of think about it, of course it makes sense. But I really like the context that he puts it in. And I like some of the lines from it. The road softly calls. But I started thinking about it, and I started slowly drifting away from that towards when he ends with lines from Moby Dick and traveling forbidden seas, I think that's the word. That kind of reminded me of a particular phobia that I have, which is fear of deep water. And I don't know, reflecting on that video just makes me feel a lot of stuff every time I watch it. So what do you think about when you watch Carl Sagan's words?
It's sort of reaffirming in a sense. And I always find in a lot of nonfiction, like I have read A Pale Blue Dot quite a while back, but I was actually rereading Cosmos, which is probably one of my favorite books, just because it makes something so massive seem accessible, and which is also written by Carl Sagan, and that was sort of my introduction to astrophysics and just astronomy in general. But I find that these books sort of help you understand the true scale of things, and not just in terms of space, but in terms of human civilizations and through time how we have evolved. So
Yeah.
I find it quite fascinating the way he talks about sort of the wandering instinct of humans, and as you said, in the context of space, which is quite nice. But yeah, I completely relate with that itchy feet feeling, and I think it's sort of an extension to the survivor itch that we talked about last time, where we, like, I guess once we learn how to survive, or we have circumstances where survival is not of utmost priority, we can start to explore, which is why so many of our sort of human milestones have been surrounding exploration, like the moon landing, or I guess in our lifetimes we'll have sort of humans landing on Mars.
Well, let's not jinx it.
But sort of even things in the past of reaching the peak of Mount Everest or reaching the South Pole and things of that sort, which is, I think there is certainly sort of an instinct to want to do, to explore and to wander. And I don't know what you want me to say. I think I completely agree with the idea of that we are wanderers.
So watching this video made me start rethinking about road trips and just traveling in general. And I was thinking about the van idea, which you mentioned earlier. If you had to create like a short list of items that you could take on a road trip, which ones would be the ones that are sort of unintuitive but yet quite close to the top of your list?
Interesting. I'm assuming that this would be over and above the sort of survival stuff that you would need, like clothing and shelter and tents and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, what I was sort of considering was a more normal road trip that you're just going from a place to another place, driving and just like staying in a hotel or something. I mean, yeah, it goes like at least a few steps above the basic survival requirements. What I'm sort of going for is now slightly functional, but also stuff that you find enjoyable, and like what would be things that you need with you and need for, like for your soul, not really for anything else. Maybe it doesn't have to have any sort of real depth to it. It's just something you bring along with you. And we have taken a couple of road trips for me to know that like you take some stuff with you that is not something that comes to a person's mind on the first go, but later on it pays off really well just because you have it with you, or it's just more enjoyable. And that's where my question comes from.
I'm quite interested in knowing what you think as to what you are alluding to.
No, I'm not really alluding to anything. The only thing I was thinking was duct tape, because I remember you always keep duct tape in your car, and that's been so useful so many times that like I kind of admire that. And that's like one of the things that I have made a list of. I have to find that list. I don't have it with me, but I remember like after going on a trip with you, I realized, okay, I need to learn from this and I need to always have duct tape with me.
Yeah, so with road trip, I have like a lot of sort of ideas, and I just keep thinking of road trips a lot. I actually was watching Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara yesterday, so it is sort of on the top of my mind right now as well.
Wonderful.
So yeah, so sort of just to complete the thought of the duct tape was that the moment that I got my car, I sort of knew that even if I wasn't actually going to go on a lot of road trips, I would want to be completely prepared. So on the off chance that I meet my friends and they're like, oh, do you want to just go on a spontaneous road trip? I could, in theory, do that. So this was just sort of something that I have in just sort of, again, part of it is survival, part of it is just sort of just wanting to be prepared for for any possibility, essentially. So I have like a Ziploc bag in my trunk, in like a secret compartment where there's like duct tape, there's some good strength rope, there's a candle, there's a matchbox, there's a bunch of small minor things which could come in handy. The main question that you were asking, I think I would have two things. One is sort of more utilitarian, but also something that I really enjoy, which is a camera, which I think is sort of the obvious choice for most people. But interestingly, it's less useful, especially because in most cases I am one of the people who's driving most of the time, which I do enjoy, to be honest. But when you're driving, it's quite difficult to take pictures. So I would prefer to be sitting next to the driver and take some pictures from time to time. But also, sort of for my soul, I try to keep some sort of hot beverage with me. So that's either some coffee powder, so some instant coffee powder, so I can make black coffee if and when I need it or want it, or or like a packet of hot chocolate is also quite cool. So you can just get somewhere, even like at a highway rest stop, and get some hot milk or hot water and get hot chocolate or hot coffee, which is always quite nice to have when you're traveling. And I don't know, I always find hot chocolate and hot coffee both to be quite refreshing and nice, just not just for your body but also for your soul. It's quite
they're really comforting stuff.
It's in my definition, I think hot chocolate would be the pinnacle of comfort food. It's just like essentially like a warm hug. It's amazing.
I agree. Yeah, it is. It is most definitely like the best hot drink that you could have on a cold, sunny, or even dreary day. And I'm gonna meander away from it a little bit because like we've been having these cold, dreary days for the past, I guess, week or so, and it rains occasionally, but most of the times it's just overcast. And when it does rain, it's been raining really nicely. It's been like really pouring down. So you can stand in the balcony and you can just hear the rain and feel sort of spray come back onto you. I've enjoyed it immensely. And as a result, I've been making way more coffee, tea. I don't have too much hot chocolate, so I haven't made that too much recently. But I have been drinking a lot more beverages purely because it's raining. I think I might have conditioned myself into somewhat of a Pavlovian response now. Also, this reminds me of the really nice hot chocolate that we had in Kodaikanal.
Yeah.
The hot chocolate under the stairs, as I recall, it was.
Yeah, it was called Jeba's hot chocolate.
That was some mighty fine cocoa.
You can hear more about that particular hot chocolate in our episode on Kodaikanal, and there's a video podcast that we didn't really sort of promote, but that one actually has some pictures of the amazing hot chocolate that we had in Kodaikanal.
I feel like it's a bit redundant to say right now, especially after we've talked so much about Kodai, and also because right now you can't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping at a future date there might be someone who's listening to this and who has the ability to travel interstate, who would go back there and have some really nice cocoa.